Welcome to Sweet Talk. This broadcast is brought to you by the Continuing Education Workforce Training Division of Idaho State University's College of Technology. This podcast is part of our continuing outreach efforts, and the format is conversational. We will be having conversations with businesses, professionals, entrepreneurs, community agencies, and, in all cases, difference makers. Now, let's get started with Sweet Talk.
Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to a Sweet Podcast. I'm Gary Salazar. I'm the Director of Continuing Education and Workforce Training, and we're glad to have you join us today. With us are two special guests. We have Brent Dunn and Annie Harrison Quinton joining us. Brent is the founder for ACE Test Prep, and we'll be talking about that a little bit. And Annie, I got to read her title that apparently I gave her. Yeah, she is our she works at SWEET, Continuing Workforce Training. I didn't say that. And she's an intern. She's pre-law, and we use her a lot to help us to look at potential resources to fund some of the things we do, whether that's grants or other projects. And so we've given her the title of Grants and Development Specialist and an awesome intern. I got the awesome part.
That's a long title.
Yes, it is. All right, so
well deserved.
welcome, Brent and Annie, and thank you for joining us today. Look forward to a conversation with you. Let's go ahead and start with something really easy. First, if we could, Brent, maybe start by a brief introduction of you, and you've been doing this for a while, and highlight that for us.
Okay, so I'll probably just use the introduction that I do in classes as well. My name's Brent Dunn. I've been teaching LSAT Prep for about 22 years now. I did take the LSAT, did reasonably well, and then pretty much enjoy doing that. The two sort of random things, I am kind of forgetful. I forget what I'm doing in the middle of things, and my my maybe best evidence of that is if I've actually driven away from the gas pump with the hose still in the car.
Haven't we all done that?
Four times. So the worst of which was when there was a highway patrolman fueling up at the other one. So So I got a field sobriety test right there at the gas station. So not one of my best moments. So now I bike everywhere. So I ride a bike, and the other thing is I don't like shoes. I wear sandals pretty much year round, and my handle on social media is shoes or jail for feet. So, anyway, that's kind of me. Test prep, I love it. It's a lot of fun, but we have fun in class too.
Good, very good. What a cool introduction, and some very unique qualities describing you, so thank you for that. We might have to come back to the shoes later on. That's awesome. All right, Annie, you were the one who really kind of helped us get the idea to do this podcast. But why don't you describe a little bit about you, Annie, for our audience so they know a little bit about your background.
I'm a senior. I'm a non-traditional student. Past 60. I decided when my kids graduated that then it was probably my turn to go to school. So I told my husband, who's a great man, great fisherman, he works for SWEET also. I said, if you stay with me and help me through undergrad, like in math and stuff, then I will, we can go wherever you want to live and you can fish. Well, it's come down to that because I graduate this year.
And where are you going?
I don't know.
On a boat.
On a boat. And so 4 years ago, the law club, we here at University, Idaho State University, we can only do a political science major. We can't do a pre-law major. There's no pre-law program. However, there are pre-law emphasis. So we can basically get the same credits we need to go on to law school. So the first year of law club, I had no one. The second year, I was all of the officers. The third year, I had recruited at least 5 people. Now we have 68 members
Wow.
and a surplus. We were $25 in the hole when I started too, and that they were about to exempt us from everything. Now we have a measurable amount of money. We do a lot. We go to the law fair every year. The law fair is in Utah, where Brett's from, and we basically go. There's 100 law schools that show up, and we all go there. Well, another law club member and I, she was the vice president at the time, Sydney Harris, we had been paying to go to prep tests. We had been paying to go to everything. We'd been paying to go to practice tests. And we're like, why can't we have them here? So I started on a journey 2.5 years ago. And I talked and I talked and I talked to everyone. I got the job kind of by accident with Scott. He goes, oh, you come to work over here. I said, okay. I'm an intern. I need it. I don't care. It looks good on my resume. And so then I was talking to Scott about how we really, really want to do the LSAT prep course because it's a very, very hard test. But you can't get into law school without it. And you get a low grade. Chances are the law school you're going to go to might be online. And, or you just might get the degree, not really ever study. So, it was really interesting because we went to the law fair last year and we had already kind of hired another one, but it was becoming very difficult and very out of reach. And so it was funny because all the law club was hanging around the window or ACE prep test, and he said, hey, I overheard you guys are getting a prep course together. That's what we all do. And I said, really? So we left. I had his card. I thought about it. I brought it up at a meeting. They said, let's do it. I said, okay, this is going to be an endeavor. And it was, until I talked to Scott one day by accident, and I said, hey, I don't have any place to do an LSAT prep course. He goes, do it here. I went, oh, and it was all settled, and we did it. And I was just amazed at how receptive everybody was. And we were just, the first one was kind of touch and go. It was at graduation time, and we lost some students because some of them graduated, but most of them still showed up. Yeah. And I have to tell you that it has opened up a whole new world for us because Brent has taught us things that you can never even imagine. I struggled so hard with that test, the practice tests, because they're basically, I don't know what you call the questions, insane. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, insane would be good.
It's when you take a bunch of smart people and let them try to trick other people.
And they do a really good job.
They do, yeah.
So he teaches us step by step how to get through these. And I tell you what, some of the first class, it has really helped a lot of people. And you have to practice. He's really a stickler about that. You got to practice, practice, practice. He'll do one-on-ones. We have really, I don't know, I think we found a gem. So now we've got more classes that we're going to do, and it's really, really evolved. We're going to meet with Brett about doing the GRE prep and some other prep courses, and he's willing, and I think it's opened up quite a new world for ISU.
Excellent. All right, so that's really a great avocation for what you're doing. Well, let's go back a little bit because you made an interesting comment about you like test prep.
I do.
What brings that up? There's a combination of running away from gas pumps to wearing no shoes to liking, test prep. How does that come about? How did you find that?
I joke that it's a mental disorder, but a lot of it. So I think that there's kind of two parts for me. One is there's something really satisfying. Like Annie said, if you don't get a good score, your options are really limited. Whereas on the other hand, if you can get a really good score, you can not only get into great law schools, you can go for free. And the difference between getting into a law school and getting a full scholarship is usually about 6 points on this test. And so if people can put in the effort to get that, they save themselves, $150,000, $200,000. And that's a lot of money. And it takes a lot of work. We tell people you need to plan on about 300 to 400 hours, which it's a lot of hours. But if you start doing the math, that ends up being about $300 or $400 an hour, and that's usually better than most campus jobs for students. And so,
Here, here.
yeah. So part of it is that there is something really, really rewarding about getting students who are coming in and they're getting a score that really isn't going to. It's going to get them into a law school, but not one they've heard of. Kind of like Annie said, something online. And then having them come out of the class with scores where they're going to schools that they really want to go to, and in a lot of cases getting scholarships. So on that level, it's really neat to get to be a part of that process with students, and just being a part of that journey is really rewarding. At the same time, I will admit there is a little bit of LSAC, which is the organization that does the test. I joke that they're kind of the embodiment of evil. Their whole goal, and throughout the class, I joke about that, and if LSAC's watching, I don't really mean it, but I figure you're probably not. Yeah, so,
I do.
Yeah.
Where are our books?
But they design a test where the 50th percentile is below 60% correct, so that more than half the students who take this are getting below 60%. I mean, it's tough, and so on some level, teaching the class is my way of revenge. It was, studying for the test was hard for me, and it took a lot of work, and I enjoyed it, but at the same time, there's something that's, kind of sticking it to the people who make that test by helping people do well on it. And so I think it's a little bit of a combination of some.
Yeah, on the
maybe
LSAT
some
test, you
good
have to
motives.
get between a 140 and a 180.
Yeah.
So that's what you have to get. At a 140, you should probably change your major.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Wow, that's good. So there's lots of different ways of pushing boundaries.
Yeah.
Sounds like you found a very unique way here.
Yeah.
For our audience here, what is the LSAT test? It
Yeah.
is just one test of 100 questions,
Yeah.
a series of exams. What is it?
So it's one test. They just actually in July they did their beta test of a digital version, and they're going to be moving to that. So, but traditionally it's been on paper. It always comprises 4 parts, and 1/4 of the test is logic puzzles that you have to solve, and it's heavily timed. Time ends up being the major factor for most people in terms of limiting their score. Then 2 of the 4 sections are argument analysis. They're a short passage within a question asking about what's a flaw, what's an assumption, what would strengthen this argument, what would weaken it. Things that we maybe associate a little bit more directly with the practice of law and things like that. And then 1/4 of the test is reading comprehension, which is similar to reading comprehension that people will do on other tests, but with a much, much, much higher degree of precision. It is very, very common that the difference between the credited response, LSAC's very careful. They don't call it the right and wrong. It's just credited and non-credited. I don't know if that's supposed to make you feel better, but it doesn't really change much in my
doesn't
mind.
change anything.
I feel like, well, it's wrong. I didn't get a point. It's wrong. So it's like that. But a lot of times the difference between the one you get a point for and the one that you don't will be one word. While at first, I think a lot of people get frustrated by that because you'll miss questions and you're like, well, I just didn't catch that one tiny little thing. I actually think that the test has a lot of value as a tool for training people to do well in law school and beyond. I mean, if you take an example, if you were to give a document to an attorney to have them read, and you're going to pay them to do it, your expectation is that they would catch every word. That if there was one word that was problematic, they would catch it. That's why we pay attorneys to read things. You're probably not going to be satisfied if they take a glance. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I'm sure this contract will work great for you.
That'll be $300, please.
Right.
Yeah.
So, we want. So to a certain degree, I think that the test actually has a lot of benefit in training you to think in a way that then prepares you for success on the test. And so that's the other thing that I think is kind of fun about it, is it's just learning a new skill.
Awesome.
It's not something where you either have it or you don't. It's just a skill that you have to train, and
Yes.
it's fun to watch that change.
So what you've described to me, because I had a different idea. I was thinking, oh, sure, this is something trains you to go into law school to be a criminal lawyer, a maritime lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
It seems more of a general skills. Can you be able to survive in law school by having some good basic education? How do you prepare?
Yeah.
How do you stay up on this?
So I, first off, every so often I'll take the test. Every 5 years, I'll take the test just so that I have a score that's current. I did take the test in July because that was the chance to basically beta test the digital version. And to be honest, I went into it thinking, I am not going to like this. I don't think this is a good choice. There are lots of studies on differences in reading speed on tablets versus paper versus computers. I felt like they weren't really taking that into account. And I ended up liking it. I think it's actually really good. As much as it pains me to say that, I would like to say that they botched it, but it's actually really good. And I liked the format. There are some things about it that I feel like they got really right. So anyway, I stay up on it by taking tests every once in a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you going to change your teaching methods because of the new digital?
Yeah, so we do. There's some things that we do a little bit differently in terms of what you can and can't do. So on the paper, obviously, you have the option to be able to mark it up a lot. You can highlight things, you can circle. Whereas on the digital, you do have a stylus. It's on a tablet. You have a stylus, but it's a little glitchy still. They're not great, and you can't. There's no drawing function. So anything you would have marked, you kind of have to have on scratch paper. So there are some differences, but overall, as far as the content has remained the same, it's just the format, and the formatting does change a little bit.
The timing kind of worries me because these are timed tests.
Yeah.
So going from paper that we're all used to taking it on, the practice test, to digital, I think might be.
Yeah. And LSAC has released some of the tests. They've got 4 that are in the digital format currently, and theoretically they should do more. I'm hoping that at some point they do they've done with the MCAT, which is basically you have a subscription that you buy when you register for the test, and then that gives you access to all of them in the digital format, so the students can then start doing it that way.
So I know there's lots of test prep companies across the country. Are they going to provide any sort of resources for you to mock the tablet experience for students?
Yeah, so there's actually I think probably one of the best things right now is the Khan Academy has a lot of the tests in a digital format. It's not the exact same software that you use when you're taking the test, but it's very similar. And that's free. So it's a great way for students to just kind of get started and kind of get a little bit of exposure. And I, that's one where companies obviously are going to develop their own versions. Like I said, what I really want is something where LSAC releases it in the same format. Like you can kind of mimic it, but ultimately, and the reason I hope that is they do release their previous tests, and that's what we always take on the paper is real tests simulated like that, and I'm hoping that they'll just convert that over as soon as they can. But yeah, so the other thing that is sometimes fun as far as prep, because I think that part of preparing is preparing for the stress of the experience. It's exciting.
Stressful.
Yeah, it's
Extremely.
when you have a if you're going in and you're like, okay, this 4 hours could significantly determine whether I go to Harvard or whether I go to Cooley, like those. It's really kind of a big difference, and so
Ellsworth Junior College.
yeah. So, but those are things where it's tough to simulate. One of the things that I've done is every once in a while I'll do a test cold. So when a new test gets released, I'll just do it in front of the students without having looked at it before, and I feel like that does a pretty good job of simulating that same stress experience.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Also, the tests, you would think LSAT, you have to take it because you want to be a lawyer. There are no legal questions.
Yeah.
None.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all very jumbled
Yep.
stop and think, games, crazy tests.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
when are you planning to take your LSAT?
Well, I think November.
November. This November. Wow. So that's going to be pretty good.
So what's the class like? The LSAT class like? How does that? How do you teach this LSAT?
So what we do is we start off like a typical day. We'll have a specific concept that we're going to cover. So for example, we might be covering formal logic, which is conditional statements, if thens, some, most, all, things like that. And so what we'll do is we'll introduce the concept.
Oh my gosh. That was a great audience question, and I'm sorry, you're just not going to be able to finish that one.
Bye.
And then we have a lot of fun.
All right.
Okay.
Well, what we want to say is thank you to our guests today. We had Brent Dunn and Annie Harrison-Quinton joining us, and this has been a fascinating conversation about LSAT. We are finished at this time, so I want to thank everybody for joining us and being part of this conversation. If you'd like to go ahead and learn more about us, you can reach us on cetrain.isu.edu.
If we're interested in taking Britt's class, how do we take that?
So you can go to our website, www.acetestprep.com.
Or you can,
Or you can
it's in the
contact me,
catalog.
as well directly. You can just.
Is it in our catalog?
It's in our
Yeah.
catalog,
All right.
and he
So
drives
the
down
course
every
here.
Saturday. It's a 6-week course, and it's Saturday from 9 to 2. And
When does it start?
it starts next weekend on Saturday, and then there's going to be another one in the spring. And so we're just going to try to keep it going.
That sounds awesome. Thanks for the tail and the Easter egg that'll be there, I'm sure, to help people find this. Appreciate you driving up here and,
Yeah.
and being part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining Sweet.
All right.
Yay!
Nice.